Hi, welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. I'm your host, Charlie Flannery, and my guest today is Mr. Ed Correira, local business owner, successful entrepreneur.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ed was on last year about this time, and we had a great discussion as to what were the top news stories for the city of Taunton for the year 2010. So I had asked you to come back on as we near the end of 2011. Good riddance, I say. and just see what some of the top stories in your mind's eye have been. And I find it uncanny that there are so many things that were topical back then that are still unresolved.
Unresolved, yes.
You know, one of the things we had talked about then was the political sea change that was about to come about, because Mayor Crowley had just announced that he was not going to seek re-election, and at the same time, there was still a recount going on between Jim Fagan and Shauna O'Connell, which ended up resulting in Shauna's favor, I think by 49 votes.
Yeah, it was close. Whew.
And then we've just we've just gone through that mayoral process. And you know, what were your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy with the outcome.
Yeah.
You know, I like Tommy. I think he's a bright young guy with a personality, and I'm happy that it ended up that way. You say good riddance to 2011. I want to hear what you say at the end of 2012, because it could be worse than 2011.
Please God, no.
But anyway, I'm happy with the outcome of the council and the mayor's race. I think that we're going to move in a different direction. I'm hoping that we spend some time on downtown, because I think everyone's talked a lot about downtown. There are some processes that they have put in place, like the bid and the neighborhood corp, that are working to improve downtown, and I'd like to see that come to fruition, because that will attract a lot more to the city.
I think that is critical. I've touched on the subject of how to blend residential with commercial. I think that seems to be the main thrust in any revitalization aimed at downtown. There's a finite amount of apartments down there, probably 50 or 60 in all of Main Street, and I keep saying I'd like to put the focus on things that would be more upscale. You know, maybe an attorney who wants to, a single attorney or divorced or whatever. He'd like to have a place close to the courthouse, and yet at the same time, he has some disposable income. You know, before I had a family, I knew what that was.
That disappears.
You know, but so it has a lot of potential. But I think we've got to keep an eye on any strings that might be attached to any monies that we accept.
Yeah. I think one of the issues, I know that a previous landlord had come into town and did some upscale apartments, but I don't think that right now we have what we need to attract that type of a tenant. And I think what happens is you can put a lot of money into these apartments, but what you're going to end up having to rent them, because let's face it, that's the business, you have to have some rent coming in, so you drop your standards of who you're going to rent to. And I think that's happened in the past. So, we need to bring in, we have some great businesses downtown, but we need to bring in some, I know there's talk now about an art gallery, which I think would be good. That type of a nice, we have some great restaurants downtown.
We do. And for years, the slam was you couldn't have a quality restaurant downtown because it would be overrun with downtowners.
Yeah, downtowners, yeah. But we do have it, as you said, we do. We've got off-Broadway
and Pub 76 and the Bajas and Bobby's and the Ugly Duckling and.
But what is the big issue downtown?
Well, I think it becomes, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes.
Do you bring the businesses down first, or do you create the demand first? I think that's the delicate tightrope you have to walk.
I think the businesses will attract the tenants, the upscale tenants. You know, you're not going to get the upscale tenants to move in down there unless you have the businesses. But one of the biggest issues down there is parking.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you go out, let's say you go down to the Ugly Duckling, which I love, great place. Sometimes it's tough to find a parking place, you know? It's worth the walk, but it is tough. I mean, now with the courthouse, my God, during the day, it's crazy.
Yeah, I was reading something in the Gazette. They tagged, I don't know if it was 18 or 28 cars today.
Yeah.
For parking along Broadway, which is really unfair. I think, first of all, downtown parking should be free. If you want to revitalize it. I mean, people go to the Galleria, they don't feed quarters into a machine. They park for nothing and they shop for a few hours. You know, I think you may generate some revenue by having parking meters or paying to park in a parking garage, but right now you're not in that competitive of a position that you can charge for something that somebody else is giving away for free.
But it's another catch-22 because you have businesses that rely on people to come and park for a half hour and leave. And if you have all of the employees of the area and the courthouse people taking up all those parking spaces, who's going to come and visit their business? So, you know, I see what you're saying, but I think that like out behind City Hall, we have free parking. So if you want to park there and walk, fine. But downtown, you do have to limit the amount of time, I think. I mean, a good friend of mine, great business, Pacheco Jewelry. I mean, he has only 2 or 3 spaces in front of his business. And if somebody parks there all day long that's working at, say, Bristol County Savings, it kills his business.
Yeah.
People today are in a hurry.
It's always been tough parking downtown. I think we need some increased spaces.
Right.
I had just found out that there are plans for additional parking on the old police station / armory.
Yes, there is.
For some reason, I had heard of I guess an ill-founded rumor that land had been donated to the library for parking.
Yes.
But at some point in time, that has changed.
Well, it's still, I think it still is earmarked for the library. But I know that people want to change that because love the library, but let's face it.
It's about 100 spots.
Yeah, they should build a parking garage there, not just use those spots on ground level.
Yeah,
I don't know what funding.
Two additional stories.
I don't know why they didn't put parking underneath the courthouse.
I attended a couple of the meetings that were presented by Capital Asset Management, the state board that was basically financing and supervising that project, and that was proposed at one of the meetings. And the reason it was not followed up on was in this post 9/11 atmosphere. They did not want to design a public building that had parking underneath that would prevent an opportunity for a terrorist to come in.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because it was tossed out there as like, gee, you could have X amount of parking right underneath, and it was a security issue. Now that's something no one would have thought of 20 years ago.
No.
You know.
No.
The other thing that's that was nice to see is Donnie Clary made a comeback to the council.
Yeah, good job,
you know?
Donnie. Good job.
Yeah,
yes.
And you know, Donnie's a very knowledgeable guy,
is.
and it's good to have his experience.
He's a good, honest guy
back on the
too.
council.
Yep.
And
my good friend John McCall.
John McCall. I mean,
Yes.
talk about try again.
Tenacity.
Tenacious, tenacious forechecking, as they say at the Bruins game. Yeah. But what was this his 3rd or 4th run?
I think it was. I'm not going to say 5th, John, if you're listening.
He'll plead the 5th anyway. Yeah.
I can't call him Johnny 10th place anymore. Love him though. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, and he's got some veterans that he can turn to.
Yes.
For advice.
Yep. He's very well liked. got a little cold in my eye there, bothering me. But yeah, he's very well liked.
I thought you had a tear in your eye
Yeah,
about John
no,
getting
no.
elected.
Yeah,
finally.
that's right, John. It was a tear in my eye.
Yeah, yeah. and I noticed that Jason Buffington,
Yes,
who
good.
finished in the top 9, accepted a position as chief counsel to newly elected Mayor Tom Hoy, and that's a good move.
Absolutely.
Which freed up a slot in the council, and I was glad. I was glad that Dan Barbour made the decision. He had finished 10th, and ironically, it was by 49 votes. I think that was the same exact margin between Jim Fagan and Shauna O'Connor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It was again. So if anybody out there thinks your vote doesn't count, you couldn't be more wrong. It really does, you know.
Oh yes.
You know.
Yeah. Some races I've seen 3 votes make a difference. That's heartbreaking. Your mother didn't vote. Your brother didn't vote. God.
Well, I'll tell this because you know hopefully they won't watch it, but it was a few years back, and Jack Gonsalves was running for council, and we have an uncle in common. So I was working for his campaign, and I had intended to go out and just do a bullet vote, which means you can vote for 9 people, but you choose to just vote for 1. It's like giving them 9 votes. Right. So I had resolved that I was going to do that, and I was working in his campaign. Well, I'm in the voting booth, and I vote for Jack Gonsalves, and then I look down and I see Louis Laura. And I go, Louis always been so good to me. I'll give Louis a vote, right? And son of a gun, we're watching the returns come in. I'm at Jack's house. The returns come in, and it's like a dead heat.
Oh man!
It was a dead heat.
You didn't tell Jack, did you?
No, not until this moment. We're gonna have to bleep this out. But I mean, I slowly just got my jacket on and slid it out of me. I felt so terrible, But 1 vote, and I know it went down to a recount, and I forget which one of them ended up taking the slot, whether it was Jack or Louis. Both great guys.
Tough. Yes, absolutely.
Both great guys.
Yeah. We've had some great councils. I'm happy. I would have been disappointed if Dan didn't accept coming back
honestly,
on, So that's great. We got a good council, good mayor. I think we're in for some good things. I was speaking with a councilor from Attleboro, who's been a councilor for 10 years, and maybe our people ought to meet with their people. They're in great shape. They're doing projects and paying for it with cash. So maybe Tom ought to take a ride up there and see the mayor of Attleboro and sit down and have a chat with him. I understand he's a pretty sharp guy.
Where is the cash coming from?
I'm not sure. I don't know all the details, but I spoke with her I met with her for about an hour, and she was telling me that they are financially sound, and that's unusual in this economy.
Yeah, you wonder if it's an industrial base. Do they have? They don't.
Not sure.
They don't have the like most places. They don't.
I know they're very frugal. Though. They're very frugal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that could.
Well, good for them.
When you're frugal, sometimes you make some enemies, and maybe that has to be done. Who knows?
Well, I think that anyone that ran for public office this time here, whether they were victorious or not, I tip my hat to them, because the general political climate out there is so rancorous, that anybody that puts themselves out there as a candidate, you don't know what kind of stuff they're going to sling at you, personal attacks. And my hat's off to everybody that participated in the process. We're going to have to take a short break for a couple of public service announcements. Please stay tuned for more of Let's Talk Real Estate.
Some things require experts at every stage.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Others are more just a matter of taste and preference.
Just the way I like them.
Buying a home falls somewhere in between. That's why you should visit HomeLoanLearningCenter.com for expert guidance. a website where you can learn just how you should go about buying a home. You'll get facts, tools, and impartial advice. From seeing a lender to settlement and beyond, there's a step-by-step explanation of the process. All at HomeLoanLearningCenter.com.
Houston, we have a solution.
Think of it as mission control for buying a home. That's HomeLoanLearningCenter.com.
This is a message from HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Can you afford your home loan? Could your mortgage payment increase in a few months to something you can't afford? Hi, I'm Ruby D. If you're not sure you can continue to make your mortgage payments, call a government-approved housing counselor in your community for free and confidential help. Keep your home. Know your loan. Call today.
Call 877-HUD-1515. That's 877-HUD-1515 or go to HUD.gov.
Hi, welcome back to more of Let's Talk Real Estate. I'm your host, Charlie Flannery, and my guest is still Mr. Ed Correira. Thanks, Ed, for not running out during the break.
Yep. You had my feet nailed to the floor.
In an armed guard at the door. So we were touching on some good things. There were a few other issues that we talked about a year ago that are still dangling out there. One of them is the arson at City Hall, and the other is still the resolution of what to do with the Star Theater. In fact, I think a year ago when we were talking about the City Hall fire, I don't know if they had yet ruled that it was a case of arson.
I don't think they had, no.
But I believe that they subsequently have. It has been determined to be arson. It is being investigated.
That's a long investigation. Whew.
I would have been halfway through with my sentence by now. I don't know. However, whoever did it is gotten away with it. But, I was just thinking of, I know on January 2nd, we have a change of administrations. Wouldn't it be nice if they found out who it was and led him or her or them away in chains on that day? It'd be like, Reagan freeing the hostages from Iran, It would be just fitting, But
and you mentioned that, and I don't want to jump off the subject, but
please do.
They're thinking about letting the guy who shot Reagan out. He's going in front of a judge here shortly.
He's better now?
Yeah, he's all better.
Oh, good.
But he was in a bookstore reading books on how to commit the same crime over again.
But this time get away with
Go
it?
figure, yeah.
Yeah.
Go figure. But anyway, yeah, back to City Hall. What do you think?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on who done it.
I think everybody has a lot of thoughts.
But we can't articulate that because, they're not
innocent.
Until we hang you.
Yeah. Now, rebuilding it?
Rebuilding it, I have had Wayne Walkton and Bob Perosi on from the building department, and we had discussed the rebuilding of the City Hall, which I think is integral. I think that is integral to any revitalization of downtown.
Yeah.
I don't think you can try to relocate out of downtown. You just have to use that as an anchor.
That's too important a piece of history.
I believe so. I believe so. And I know in talking with Bob and Mark, they were talking about, because of some of the new regulations regarding Americans with Disability Acts, et cetera, and new fire prevention systems, that they were going to lose several thousand square feet if they were to rebuild exactly the edifice that had been there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, why would you want to do that anyway? It was built so many years ago that you could modernize it.
Well, yes, but I mean, I'm saying if you keep the same footprint,
yeah,
you're gonna lose 3,000 to 4,000, I think it was, usable square feet. All right. And then one of the things I would like to throw out there is there's that space. It's got to be a good 40 feet back before you get to the annex where Kevin Scanlon is. If they could extend the City Hall backwards to encompass that, you
Could make up the difference.
you could more than not only make up the difference. I mean, what's, if you're 3 stories high, there's at least 30 feet, right? Times 40 feet times.
It's 1,200, right? 3,600.
It's got to be more. Maybe I'm wrong, because I don't know. Well, I don't know how wide City Hall is. That's the factor we're not.
Oh, okay, yeah. You said,
That's the missing piece, But be that as it may, you could keep the facade the same. You could modernize it and keep the integrity of downtown. Then the question becomes what to do with the Star Theater. I know that there had been some state money that came down to do some flood control along the 3 Mile River behind City Hall. And they also put a river walk along there. At the time that we talked a year ago, they were going to use that for a skateboard park. That idea didn't come to fruition. I lost a lot of fan base because I came out in opposition of the skateboard park. I want to tell you, the ratings were down. Really? They went through the floor.
Tanked? Yeah.
We came back.
Yeah.
We did come back.
Yeah.
But the skateboard park was never built. But they have.
Why did that not happen? Funding?
Sanity. Sanity prevailed for once. I like to think. But. So far, it's just a nicely developed mini walkway. I think if they could induce some type of a restaurant to go into that back area along that river walk and slowly develop it, so almost like something that San Antonio has or Providence, but on a much smaller scale, okay? Even if you had 3 or 4 thriving businesses down in that stretch along the river, it could almost be the stimulus that trickles over into downtown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd stop right there and work your way back. You'd start with the revitalized City Hall, the new commercial, downtown too, just a few feet behind City Hall, and then it spreads backwards.
Have you been to Providence when they have the fires, the river fire?
No.
Oh, you got to do it.
I've been told I have to.
Yeah, I mean, I just did it this year, actually. I've heard about it a number of times, just never got to it. Went this year. I was amazed. The amount of people that it brings into the city that night is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I
have had several women that have invited me to come and watch it.
But your schedule was full.
No, that was not the case. Unfortunately, they invited me a couple of months prior to, and by the time the event rolled around, they were sick of my stuff, and
that's it.
I never went. Yeah.
Those quick relationships, huh?
Yeah. 2 to 3 weeks is all they can tolerate me for. You get out. There's a reason why you're not married.
And the fire's going out.
And it's not on the river. Yeah. But what I mean? There's something that could be utilized commercially down there. And I think that would be a good place to start.
I agree.
The Star Theater, I don't know what resources are available for taking that by eminent domain. I know the city has gotten burned in the past with that Warner Boulevard land, taking that by eminent domain.
Wouldn't it be feasible to use that as an addition to City Hall?
It could be, or it could be additional parking.
Well, you wouldn't want to knock it down. Once again, it's a piece of history.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the historical status is. I don't know if it's something that's covered under the historical district.
Yeah, I would think it is. I mean, I don't think there's any way it could come back as a theater and even make it. But it's possible. It's possible, depending on what else you have downtown to draw people in.
Right. I mean, the Zeiterion
Yeah.
in New Bedford has been a huge success, and has really done a lot to help New Bedford turn their downtown area around. You know,
I wonder if the bid has talked about that at all. Do you know anybody that's on the
Business Improvement
Yeah.
District? No, I have not yet had an opportunity to meet with anyone.
Yeah, you
Who's-
should have
who's
them
on there?
I know Luke Pacheco is very involved in it.
Oh, from
Yeah.
the jury, yeah.
Yeah. There's a number of businesses downtown that are involved in it. Some of them opted out, some of them got involved, and Dave DeSantis, I believe, is pretty involved in it.
Dave's a good guy. Now, you talked about a guy that had put in some upscale apartments.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a good stake invested in downtown
a number
Taunton for
of
quite some time.
apartments.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And I hear all good things about. Never had the pleasure
Great
of
guy.
meeting the gentleman.
Yeah, great guy.
Hear great things about him.
Yeah, he's got some commercial spots too. And he's done well with them. You talk about attorneys. John Libertine just moved into his building downtown on the corner of School Street. So there's a number of other businesses that have moved in there. So that's a good sign. I mean, we're going in the right direction.
Right.
No
right,
question.
Right.
You know.
I think what we are seeing though, like, are things like, you know, white collar services, attorneys, perhaps accountants,
social services.
you know,
yes.
and I think there's no denying that there is a lack of parking downtown. But I think in large part, a lot of the merchants that are in that stretch of Broadway and along Main Street, I think that part of their chagrin, which is focused on the lack of parking, really has to do with the fact that they were anticipating a much greater demand being created by the clientele who showed up at the new district courthouse. And that is what I think has not happened.
Yeah. I think a few of the businesses have picked up. I've talked to some.
Yeah.
Some of the restaurants. So it has brought some business, but I don't think, you're right, a lot of the others thought it would bring a lot more. It hasn't. But what you were just saying brought to mind that maybe we could take Taunton Green, which I know has a lot of historical value, and make it one 5-story parking garage. What do you think?
It'd be a great place to hang the Christmas decorations every year.
All around it.
The display is all set up. Hey, we're starting to wind down. I really want to thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions or comments, please send an email to letstalkrealestate@verizon.net. If you'd also like a free copy of today's show, you can send an email to that same address. Please include your name, address, and phone number so that we can verify, because these things are expensive. And if you would like to be a guest on Let's Talk Real Estate, send an email and be a guest as the subject. You know, who knows? We may have you on here soon. You can also call 508-884-8869. Get any questions answered that you want. Thanks again for tuning in. It's been a real pleasure talking real estate today with you. Thanks a lot, Eddie.
Thank you. My
Ta bon.
pleasure. Ta bon, baby. Sponsors it covered.